I'm going to go to the gym a little bit later. I could film myself, but I won't. I'm going to go grocery shopping a little bit later. I could film myself, but I won't. I'm probably going to cook food this evening. Probably. Would anyone in this audience want to watch a video of that? I doubt it. What's happened here on YouTube is the creation of a cottage industry of people filming the banal minutiae of their daily lives, the meaningless details of themselves shopping, eating, and buying clothes, and presenting this to an audience cumulatively of tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, and cumulatively generating millions of dollars. Now, that money is spread out pretty thin. I don't think that someone like Bonny Rebecca is making all that much money filming herself at the grocery store, but nevertheless, she has enough of a financial incentive to really take quite a lot of time filming herself doing her grocery shopping, right? It may look natural, but you have to pause and consider the extent to which this is an affectation. When she films herself handling a box of cereal in the cereal aisle, she's actually taken her camera and set it down on a shelf, started it rolling, and then, behaves as if she's walking down this aisle, picking up the box. She behaves as if this is effortless. She doesn't have a cameraman with her. She doesn't have a tripod. She's setting up each of these shots, aisle by aisle, item by item in this grocery store, and her grocery shopping experience is going to take 3 times as long as it would if she just bought the groceries. Now, my question here is not why would the audience want to see this, but why would the filmmaker think this is a meaningful and interesting type of content to present to the audience? What happened within veganism was the idea that there was something instructive, educational, useful, and even heroic in showing yourself buying macaroni and cheese because it was vegan macaroni and cheese. Showing yourself cooking the macaroni and cheese because it was vegan macaroni and cheese. Showing yourself enjoying the macaroni and cheese, and showing yourself talking about how it's a perfectly good, perfectly satisfying macaroni and cheese even though it's vegan. And this is tied conceptually to a grand sense of moral purpose, a sense of wanting to make the world a better place, ecologically, ethically, animal rights, however it is you think of it. And then what you see with these ex-vegans like Bonny Rebecca is you take away that moral purpose, you take away that political movement, that aspiration to make the world a better place, and yet the cycle of filmmaking, of producing video out of the meaningless minutiae of your daily life still goes on. The cottage industry of manufacturing a product that nobody wants for an audience who can't possibly find these things interesting goes on. It's like a wooden wheel that fell off the cart and keeps rolling down the hill for a good long while.
This one in particular really got me. She says you use your thin, attractive body. I mean... Use.
That's a strong word, isn't it?
I mean, that's just who Bonny Rebecca is. She has a thin and an attractive body. What is she?
Yeah, she was born attractive.
Born with tall, long, lean genetics.
Yeah, I don't see why she should be penalized for that. It doesn't mean that she's a bad person, that she was born attractive and she takes care of herself.
I don't just think this is a problem with the state of veganism. I think this is a problem with the state of YouTube. People are producing content that could only be interesting to a viewer in the most deprived circumstances imaginable. And it's pathetic. Like, you can laugh or you can cry. But who would find it interesting to watch Bonny Rebecca in the grocery store this way? Maybe someone who's on a refugee camp in South Sudan, who's never been in a grocery store like that. Someone whose life is so far removed from this that they regard this as exotic and interesting and bizarre. Like, oh, wow, look at this girl picking cereal off a shelf. I mean, Vegan Gains, sorry, he's still vegan, he's not ex-vegan. He does this too. He films himself going to Costco and trying on shoes. He films himself going to Costco and buying dry groceries. It's mind-blowing. Who is this for? Who do these filmmakers imagine is in the audience who would enjoy and appreciate this content, who would have something to learn from it. And for the audience, I mean, again, veganism provided this anchor. It provided this sense of moral purpose that justified the filmmaking, justified the presentation of the video, and justified the audience's role as all being part of a quote-unquote movement or a quote-unquote community. And the thing is, now in 2019, even though I express my contempt for these ex-vegans, there's also a limited extent to which I can sympathize with them, because I've completely lost faith in this movement. I've completely lost any hope for the future of this movement. Obviously, I still eat a vegan diet, but I have none of the sense of moral purpose that I had when I started this channel. On a very basic level, I don't think even one person is going to come into my life and collaborate to accomplish anything in veganism as a movement, like not to lobby government, not to publish a magazine article or publish a book, not even to collaborate on a YouTube video. Like, my expectations of my fellow vegans have gotten lower and lower and lower. There isn't anything immoral about filming yourself while you buy your groceries. And I don't think there's anything immoral about an audience that finds it fascinating to watch someone buy, cook, and eat their groceries. But I think there's something for us to pause and reflect on here. Ex-vegans tend to go through a transitional period where they at first want to glorify their own sense of having done something edgy and bold in having overcome, having challenged the ethical lines they drew for themselves in becoming vegan. You hear a lot of that kind of self-congratulation from them. You hear them boasting that they decided to do what was right for them despite being conditioned or despite being part of a cult or however they put it. So they often go through a brief period where they try to valorize their meat eating as a moral cause that's tantamount to veganism, that's equal to veganism. They try to valorize their being omnivores or carnivores as if it's now going to provide a sense of meaning and direction in their lives the way that veganism did before.
Now, a strict plant-based diet worked for me for many years, and then it didn't. I had to accept and admit to myself that the needs of my body were changing. I listened to my body. It's not about like judging something as being right or wrong. It's about being open, it's about being motivated, it's about being truthful with yourself. I feel empowered, I feel excited, I feel empowered to make the decisions that are right for me, regardless of what others may think, and I'm feeling inspired for the journey that lies ahead of me. I truly believe that we have created this community for a purpose. So I am going to continue sharing my life, sharing my healthy journey to help you become a better, healthier version of yourself.
They try to valorize their being omnivores or carnivores as if it's now going to provide a sense of meaning and direction in their lives the way that veganism did before. And then soon enough, that ends, that fades away. And what's left? What's left is a cycle of the most meaningless filmmaking imaginable. What's left is someone like Bonny Rebecca or someone like Kasumi Chris filming themselves going through the meaningless actions of their daily life that could only be meaningful to an audience so far removed from that normality that they regard it as exotic or incomprehensible. Now, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I was warning people in the vegan movement, look, we've got to do more than this. We've got to be more than this. We've got to have a real community. We've got to have real collaboration, real organization. We've got to become a real movement. But even within filmmaking, we should be looking for talent and direction and meaning. You know, I say all the time, we got to write new children's storybooks and produce new children's stories. We've got to produce cartoons and kid shows and puppet shows. But hey, if you want to produce the vegan equivalent to Game of Thrones, a drama for adults, there are a lot of challenges if you think about YouTube as filmmaking, or you think about the future of veganism in filmmaking and what can be done. But precisely what people were drawn to was this kind of, PG-13 pornography, this incredibly diluted pornography constructed out of bits and pieces of the banal details of their quotidian habits.
I mean, that's just who Bonny Rebecca is. She has a thin and an attractive body. What is she?
Yeah, she was born attractive.
Born with tall, long, lean genetics.
The salacious promise of people like Durian Ryder and Freelee telling you all you have to do is come on the internet and wear a bikini, show off your body as a man or a woman, and promise people they can get the same great diet results and you'll have money and fame and, that was maybe easier for the audience to be aware of. Like, they could see the bait and they could see the hook that the bait was hanging from. You could see the incentive, you could see what people were doing to get that incentive, and you could see what was wrong with it. It stood out. But the ever more meaningless cycle of autobiographizing your daily life, the way in which that became the predominant mode of vegan activism. And people used to say to me positively, they say, why don't you do the same thing? People used to say to me, why don't you quit your job? Why don't you drop out of your education? And why don't you just become a full-time vegan activist? And what they meant was, why don't you become a full-time cinema verite filmmaker who films yourself cooking and doing grocery shopping and cleaning the dishes and trying on clothes and shoes, And look, I just bought a new pair of vegan shoes, and I may do a video talking about whether or not those shoes are any good. But if I do, it's because I believe that review of that product, of that shoe, actually serves a function for the audience. And instead, what we got was a type of filmmaking that had no relationship to the audience, that had no utility, had no purpose, had no point for the audience. And bit by bit, I think this poisoned the outlook of the movement, where we had a movement that existed likewise for no other purpose other than producing the self-same lifestyle that was packaged, marketed, and sold right here on YouTube.